Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege and an honor to give this opening keynote. So thank you, Libor, for the invitation. Thank you for the organizers to make this conference happen. And hello to all of you who are virtually with us this morning. It happened once in a train, as I was going home. I was sitting with a colleague in front of me. She lived in a nearby village. And for no apparent reason, I started feeling nauseous. And soon I realized that something was off. The vicious circle had started. My heart started racing. I felt more and more nauseous. My breathing became shallower. I started sweating. I felt that I was pulled down to an ever darker place. I couldn't register what my colleague was telling me. And the people around us were minding their own business, completely oblivious to what was happening to me. My chest was becoming tighter. I was becoming more and more nauseous. I was petrified. I was paralyzed with anxiety. I wanted to move, but I couldn't. I wanted to scream, but no words were coming out. I did come out of that moment. I will change my slide. The Zoom meeting has ended after 40 minutes of idle time. As I said, I did get out of that moment. I did get out of that train. And eventually, I got rid of my panic attacks. Over the course of my talk, I will share with you what I've learned from this dark experience. I will give you clues as to how to cope with uncertainty, and hopefully these learnings will be useful to you, to your peers, and to your students. Let's go back to the darkness first. At the time of this panic attack, I was a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Geneva. After earning my PhD in neuroscience, and with my beautiful French accent, I moved to the US to do research in a world-renowned university with a very famous professor. The objective was simple: publish a couple of articles, then come back to France to apply for a tenured researcher position. 1 year passed. 2 years. 3 years. My experiments were failing, and progress was painstakingly slow. No sight of a publication. My hope of getting a job was very, very slim. I liked research. I wanted to become a researcher, so I held on to my plans. 4 years passed. Still no sign of publications. I started asking myself, what else than research? What could I do besides doing research? I liked it. I liked research, and I still wanted to become a researcher. Besides, academia was the only thing I knew. I felt that's where I belonged. 5 years passed. Still no publications. So I decided to leave the US without my publications, and I moved to Switzerland with the hope for a fresh start. I wanted to give myself a second chance. It was not a fresh start. I still had this abysmal hole in my CV. 5 years with no publications. Nothing. Nothing to show for myself. As if I had twiddled my thumbs for 5 years. And that reality was crushing me. I was not competitive. After 12 years in academia, I would need to do something else. But what could I possibly be doing? What is the value of knowing how to build a 2-photon microscope on the job market? Without the academic framework, I was struggling to define myself. I'm a scientist. I'm an improviser. I coach speakers at a local TEDx conference. I play the trumpet. It felt like a giant puzzle and the pieces were not fitting together. I was having a major identity crisis. I was asking myself these daunting questions. What am I doing with my life? What do I want? Who am I? Panic attacks would happen at random, during the day, at night, at work, at home, with friends, alone. My story is not unique, by no means. There is a mental health crisis in academia. There are more and more publications on the topic, and more institutions are monitoring the well-being of their researchers. In this study published in 2018, they found that in their sample of 2,000 participants, 41% of graduate students, PhD students, suffered from anxiety, and 39% suffered from depression. The sample is over 2,000 graduate students from 26 countries and over 200 disciplines. This is just one example of such studies. 41% and 39% as compared to 6% in the general population. These numbers are dramatic, and they reveal a very bleak reality. Of course, there are many factors contributing to this problem. And these factors are tightly integrated together. And it's difficult to single one out as the one factor that is at the source of everything. Today, I choose to focus on two of those factors contributing to the mental health crisis that are often overlooked. The first one, you know it very well. Languages are wonderful. Languages are wonderful in their ability to bring people together. Languages also separate and isolate. A lot of academics in their career work abroad, sometimes in countries speaking a different language than their mother tongue. And language here is the symbol of the alienation of the expats. When I moved to the US, people would spot my accent from just me saying hello. In my improv group in New York, there was one colleague who kept teasing me, and often when we were doing a scene together, he would take on a French accent. That annoyed me deeply. In our improv group, there were a lot of foreigners, and a number of us were non-native English speakers, and it was quite fun sometimes. I remember some of us were speaking very broken English, to the point where sometimes one of us would not understand the instructions and would start doing something that nobody could really understand. One thing we were doing in our improv group was to play with accents. Changing an accent in a foreign language is hard. We made it fun, though. And playing with an accent in a foreign language is a great way to train your ear to identify different pronunciation of a word. If you do play with accent, I must warn you that it is also very offensive. So handle it with care. At the time, in my environment, I had everything, my environment was fueling my desire to improve my English and to improve my accent. And my environment provided me with tools to actually improve. Not all academics are that fortunate. And for a number of academics, being in a foreign country is very isolating because they don't speak the local language. Another factor contributing to the mental health crisis in academia is relates to the very nature of the research process. Research is an exploration of the unknown. The job of a researcher is to make sense and to find sense where there was none. And it is very often the case that you start with an idea of where to go, you start with a hypothesis, you start with a clear objective, and then you find yourself lost. Because in the unknown, different rules might apply. Because in the unknown, what seemed like solid ground might collapse beneath you. Your careful plans for a conference might not work. So as a researcher, you need to adapt to that reality. And when you're time pressured, before I go to the time pressure, I want to say that if you are in the unknown, and because of the very nature of the research process, it is likely that you end up losing your references, losing landmarks, signposts, and you're left with a feeling of being disoriented. And when you're time pressured, when you are expected to produce results, having no sense of direction is devastating. These observations apply to other explorations of the unknown. They can be literal exploration of a physical world, or they can be figurative explorations, like an artistic creation, or the acquisition of knowledge through learning. Are there any solutions? How can we make the exploration of the unknown less dramatic? I found some answers in a rather improbable comparison. What else is an exploration of the unknown? Improvised comedy. An activity that I've been practicing for over 15 years now, first as a hobby and now as part of my job. Improvised comedy, or improv for short, is a form of theater in which what is performed is unscripted, unplanned, and created spontaneously by the performers. That was unplanned. When I go on stage with my fellow renegade saints, I do not know what is going to happen. And that is fine. So what can we learn from the comparison between research and improv? I will answer this question with improv games that you will do. And together we will explore 4 domains: failure, laughter, creativity, and collaboration. Let's start. Let's start with a simple game. I want all of you to stand up. Wonderful. Can you all raise a hand? Brilliant. You know how to raise your hand. Excellent. There are people in the back. I invite the people in the back to come here so that you can see what I'm doing. That's going to be useful. There is plenty of space here to do that exercise. You can come down. Okay. I want all of you to, so all of you raise your hand, and starting from the right side of the room, I want you to find a partner. So from this side, you find a partner, and once you have a partner, you lower your hand. So if you don't have a partner, you keep your hand up. Cool. Excellent. You can, sir? Oh, here. Someone doesn't. Brilliant. You can come with me. You don't have a partner, so you can be together. Excellent. Good. You can keep your social distance. That is fine. This first exercise is a silent exercise. Is there anybody here from the Netherlands? Nobody's here from the Netherlands. Okay. The exercise that we are going to do is called the Dutch clap. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Okay, very, very simple exercise. You're going to face each other. And in rhythm, you're going to clap on your thighs. And then you're going to clap on your thighs. And then with your thumbs, you're going to point either to one side or to the other side. So together, you clap, you point, you clap, you point. You decide where to point independently from your partner. So you might point in different directions, you might point in other directions. That's not the point of the game. Cool. So very simple sequence, you clap, you point, you clap, you point. If that was just it, it would be boring. So there is something more. There is something more. Wait a second, wait a second. So if you do end up pointing on the same side, then you clap on your thighs, and then you point at your partner with your index like this, and you say, bang! Cool? So clap, point, and at any time, if you do end up pointing the same direction, clap, bang. If you do get lost, if you did not really understand the rules of the game, or if you get taken away and you miss something, you miss a step, I want you to raise your hands and say, yay! Ladies and gentlemen, the Dutch clap. Go ahead. Now I want you to go faster. Go faster. Now go even faster and faster and faster. Go as fast as you can. Even faster, even faster. I know you can do it. Go even faster. There will be a Dutch clap competition at the end of the conference. Faster, faster, faster. Thank you. Thank you. You can sit down. So our first comparison between research and improv starts with failure. During the Dutch clap, was there a moment where you were confused, you didn't know what to do, and you ended up saying yay? You can raise your hand. Excellent. Was it a big deal? I heard someone said yes. In this exercise, the Dutch clap, how many of you think that the most enjoyable way to do that exercise is to do things right? You can raise your hand to say yes. Okay. Who among you think that the most enjoyable way to do that exercise is to mess up? Yes. For those of you who are online, the majority raised, well, the majority, a larger number of people raised their hand. Thank you. In this exercise, in this game, the point is to fail. The excitement comes from exploring the limit of what you can do. And when you are at that limit, then you are bound to fail. And in this context, it's not a big deal. We can laugh about it, which is wonderful. In improv, we know that failure is always a risk. In every game, in every scene, we might fail. We might do a very mediocre scene. And we know that. Every improviser knows that. And we learn to cope with it from day one. As an improv teacher, the first thing you have to do is to create a safe space for everyone to fail, for everyone to do a mediocre scene. In this safe space, you want to be as supportive as possible. Because without support, there is no improv. Because without support, coping with the uncertainty is very hard. Because without encouragement, then you are only left with the judgment of others. In research, we don't talk about failure. And that makes a lot of people miserable. A lot of people suffer from it. Uri Alon, a professor of systems biology at the Weizmann Institute in Israel, and also an improviser, gave a TEDx talk in Lausanne. It is not a coincidence. And he then gave this talk at TED Global on this very topic. Scientists need to learn from improvisers about the emotions associated with the failures inherent to the exploration of the unknown. Once you've acknowledged that, then you realize that the problem is systemic. It's not coming from you. You are not the failure. In your work, how is failure regarded? And is that perception of failure a problem? In the Dutch clap exercise, well, did you enjoy that exercise? You can raise your hand if you said yes. Cool. I would say majority of people raise their hand. I'm making comments for the virtual participants. Did you laugh together? Majority of people raise their hands. It's wonderful. Laughter and humor has been shown to decrease level of cortisol, which is a stress-related hormone, and increase level of dopamines, the so-called reward hormone. Laughter, humor are great. It's good for your health, physical health, mental health. Amazing, yes. But when you are depressed and anxious, finding the energy to go and interact with people, to play and to laugh, it is hard. There are days when I don't feel like going to practice improv. There are days where I don't want to go and teach improv. And there are nights where I don't want to perform. Yet every time I come out of improv, especially on those days, I feel energized. Energized from the laughter, energized from the good moments spent together. I moved from Geneva to Fribourg about a year ago, then my daughter was born, then lockdown happened. So it's been a year since I practiced improv, and believe me, I miss my weekly fix of laughter. One of my favorite quotes is from Victor Bourget. The shortest distance between two people is laughter. Or as it is written here, laughter is the shortest distance between two people. Having a group of people you can talk to, you can play with, you can laugh with is amazing. And I feel very fortunate to have at least 2 improv groups with whom I feel at home and I feel comfortable playing and performing with. We are going to continue our exploration of the unknown with another game. I want you all to stand up. And I want you to face each other. The person who, in the pair, the person who has the longest hair, you are going to start, if you, here, you have a friend here. Brilliant. The person with the longest hair, you are going to start telling a story that is completely made up. And I'm going to give you a word of inspiration to start your story. So you're going to make up a story, and the person with the shorter hair, at any time, you can say, change. If you hear change as the storyteller, your job is to change the last word or the last part of the sentence you just said. The person saying change, you can say change multiple times in a row. So if the person said, I started the day by feeding my cat, you can say change, feeding my dog, change, feeding my fish, change, feeding my grandmother. And then whenever you want to stop saying change, then you can continue. The point of saying change is to push the storyteller to find something somewhat unexpected. I will give you a word of inspiration, don't worry. So you're going to go on for a little bit, and then you're going to switch roles. Wait for my instruction to switch roles. Your word of inspiration, drum roll, to start your story is crossroad. 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 So whatever inspires your imagination, start with the word crossroad and then go with it. And then person with the shorter hair, say change whenever you want. Go ahead. Don't forget to say change. Keep going, keep going. Keep going. Thank you. Thank you. So now the person with the shorter hair is going to be the storyteller, and I'm going to give you another word of inspiration. Don't forget to say change to force the storyteller to come up with new ideas. And once again, you can say change multiple times in a row. Your word of inspiration is light. Thank you. You can sit down. A big round of applause to all of you. Was there in this game, did you have any idea how your story would end? Did you end up running out of ideas? Good. A large number of participants raised their hands. Did you surprise yourself with some of the thoughts that you came up with? a number of hands, not even half the participants raised their hands. Did you find yourself censoring or suppressing some of your ideas? Very few hands. Awesome. I'll come back to that point later. Welcome to the land of creativity. Improv is creative by nature. In research, we don't talk about creativity as being part of the research process. Yes, it is very much the job of a researcher to be creative. When you are exploring the unknown, when you are investigating a new area of research, you need to identify new rules that govern that new area. When you are exploring something new, thinking inside the box is not an option if there is no box. So as a researcher, you need to make sense in sometimes unexpected ways. And sadly, especially in hard sciences, creativity, there is nothing that is done to foster creativity. If you consider learning as an exploration of the unknown, of something you don't know, then learning also is a creative process. And I will refer to the work of Kaufman and Beghetto, who formalized the 4C model of creativity. And in their model, the mini C category is very much related to learning as a creative process. So their mini C category is about interpreting the world, events, knowledge, making connections between what is new and what you know already, and making these connections in a unique manner. I was talking earlier, I asked the question to all of you about whether you had censored yourself. And a few people raised their hands. We all have an inner critic. And this inner critic is a big obstacle to creativity. And in improv, we have a number of exercises to train people to silence their inner critic. Being critical in research is very, very important. You cannot build knowledge on the first opinion that comes about. You need to build research, you need to build knowledge on something really solid. And a lot of scientists praise themselves for their critical thinking. Again, it is very important. There is a danger, though, of being over-critical. Because if you keep criticizing every idea, then you never know whether the seedling would have become a beautiful flower or a centenarian oak tree. So it is important to know when to silence your inner critic and when to listen to your inner critic. So in a lot of creative processes, you need to separate phases of divergent thinking, where you silence your inner critic and you let all these seedlings grow to get a sense of what they would be. So you welcome all the ideas, even those who seem really stupid at first. And once you have all these ideas, then you can decide which one is the best. Then you can let your inner critic go crazy and smash down all the ideas that are not worth it. In the change game, who you think had the hardest job? The storyteller, you can raise your right hand, or the changer, you can raise your left hand. There is a vast majority of right hands. So it seems that the hardest job is on the shoulders of the storyteller. Who do you think was in control of the story? The storyteller, right hand, the changer, left hand, or both? There is almost an absolute majority of both hands. Brilliant. Yes, as a changer, you might have had the feeling that your contribution was small. Yet you did contribute, and without your input, the story would have become very, very different. So it doesn't matter how much you contributed. You did engage with your partner in creating something together. And the act of co-creation is almost as powerful as laughter to bring people together. If you engage in an activity, if you actively participate in an activity, especially a creative activity, you build a sense of ownership, a sense of belonging, which is extremely, extremely powerful. In improv, we come to value the process, the creative process, very much. And once again, and what matters in improv is the collaboration. We value the collaboration more than the outcome. The outcome becomes secondary. What matters is that we engage, we enjoy, we are together, and then, yes, sometimes the outcome is amazing, and sometimes the outcome is only passable. When you go to an improv show, seeing performers enjoying themselves or having fun is very, very enjoyable, regardless of what they are doing. Just seeing a bunch of people having fun on the stage is very enjoyable. We call this the second show. So if you go to an improv show and you don't know what the second show is yet, or now you know, I guess pay attention to this. Have a look at how much the performers are enjoying themselves. And you will be taken by this feeling. Extremely powerful. In research, the system pushes the individuals to worry about their publications. Academics are evaluated on the number of publications they have. So the system is pushing the individuals to think selfishly. The system is pushing academics to put their name, and not someone else's name, out there, and to have their names as visible as possible. Let's continue our exploration of the unknown with the notion of collaboration. There are very few rules in improv, very few. I'm going to illustrate one of them with our third and final game. Please stand up. And face each other. Libor, if you want to play, you can come and we can have fun together. Okay, so in your pair, I want you to imagine that you are two siblings. Your two siblings, the one with the longer hair is the older sibling. It is a Sunday afternoon, it is raining outside, it's raining and cold outside, you're stuck at home, and you, as a younger sibling, you're very eager to play with your older sibling because you're bored. And as an older sibling, you don't want to play with your younger sibling. So the person with the shorter hair is going to come up with a lot of ideas of things you could be doing together. And the older sibling, to all of these options, is simply going to reply, no. So the person with the longer hair, the only thing you have to say is no. Go ahead. Thank you. Thank you. That was round one. Round one of 3 rounds. Okay, round 2. You are a couple and you have kids. And a week from today, you have hired a nanny, a babysitter, to take care of the kids. And so you have the evening for the two of you to go out and spend some time together. You are going to decide what you are going to do together. The person with the longer hair, you are going to make a number of offers. The person with the shorter hair, you're going to start your replies with the words, yes, but. I want all your replies, person with the short hair, I want all your replies to start with the words, yes, but. And then you finish the sentence. Go ahead. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I heard a lot of people laughing, which is great. I love it. The third round, third and final round, you are two teenagers. Today is Thursday, so you've decided that tomorrow, Friday, you are going to skip school. And you are going to decide together what you are going to do instead of going to school. It doesn't matter who starts, and I want, after the first offer, I want all your sentences to start with the words yes and. Yes and. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. That was the third and final round. You can sit down. Out of these 3 rounds, which one was the most enjoyable? You can answer the first round, the no round, by just crossing your arms. You can say the second round, second round with the yes but with one arm, one hand, and you can say the third round, the yes and, with 2 hands. So which round was the most enjoyable? First, second. The majority, I would say the majority raised 2 hands, more or less. Which of these 3 rounds was the most productive? It's subjective, obviously. Fewer answers. Some say yes, but some say yes, and maybe half and half. I have 5 more minutes. Which of these 3 rounds was the closest to reality? Good. Pretty much all the answers are yes, but. That was a very brief and not very accurate survey. From my reading of the answers, I would say yes and was the most enjoyable. Yes and was the most productive, and yet, yes and is not what we use to practice. Food for thoughts. Yes and is one of the pillars of improv. Improv relies on collaboration. If two improvisers cannot work together, there is no improv. If I go on stage and I say, wow, that's a beautiful house, and my partner on stage say, that's not a house, it's a field of sunflowers, then we have failed to create a world in which to immerse ourselves and to immerse our audience. Result would be a lot of frustration on stage, and for the audience, they would feel really puzzled by what's happening. So yes and doesn't mean that you have to say yes to everything that is given to you. You don't have to accept and do things you don't want to do. Yes, in the yes and, the yes means at the very least acknowledge the idea that is given to you. Give it a thought, and maybe look for the good thing in it. The end part is about giving back and not being passive. So yes and is the recipe for successful collaboration, for successful, collective, divergent thinking. Coming up with lots of ideas, and once you have lots of them, then you can shut down whatever doesn't work. The ability to collaborate, the ability to work together is very important for a researcher, for at least two reasons. If you have the ability to work with other people, then you have access to more resources. More brains is oftentimes better than one brain to solve a complex issue. The other reason is social interaction. If you are good at working with other people, then you're more likely to indeed be working with other people. And social interaction, whether it's at work or outside of work, is a very important factor, has a very a clear impact on your health, whether it's physical health or mental health. So I encourage all of you to think about how to improve your collaborative skills. Okay, so I've gone through my comparison between research and improv. Research is an exploration of the unknown. And because of that, the uncertainty that is inherent to the research process, where am I going to get a job? When am I going to get a job? Are my experiments going to work? Am I going to stay in academia? All this uncertainty, again, inherent to the research process, leads or contributes to the mental health crisis that you find in academia. The practice of improv in itself is beneficial to the individual. Because improv makes you laugh, because in improv you have a creative, a safe space and supportive space for you to express yourself. Improv is great because failing is okay in improv. You learn how to deal with it. And finally, you keep an open mind, or you train your open mind with the yes and mindset. Improv, the practice of improv is also beneficial for the community, in that laughter brings people together, co-creation brings people together, And if you have a safe space, a safe and supportive space, then it is very welcoming. And these two ideas, the healthy individual and the healthy community, form a virtuous cycle. They are mutually reinforcing each other. What can we learn from improv about the exploration of the unknown? What are the necessary ingredients to be able to explore the unknown? My takeaways are that whether you are exploring the unknown as an improviser, as a researcher, as a learner, you need to have an environment where this exploration of the unknown is de-dramatized, and where there is a safe space and supportive space where failing is okay. An exploration of the unknown should not be a debilitatingly stressful experience. An exploration of the unknown should be a joyous adventure. As for me, after 15 years, a PhD and 2 postdocs, I left academia. I created my own company, Masaryk Science, and I have solved the puzzle of my identity. I happily define myself as a scientist and an improviser. And I use both my analytical, critical side and my creative, crazy side to teach collaboration, communication, and creativity. And I help researchers to talk about their research, and I help academics to navigate their exploration of the unknown. Before leaving you, I invite you to explore new ideas and create a safe space in which everyone here is going to thrive. Happy conference. I've already taken 4 minutes out of your coffee break, so if you want to ask me questions, I will happily answer your questions during the coffee break. Thank you.